operations for the Marlins. He's been with the organization since 2002 and served as general manager from 2007 to 2013. Before joining the Marlins, he was director of player development for the Colorado Rockies and spent 5 seasons in the Tampa Bay Rays scouting and player development departments. He graduated from Harvard University in 1993 and was drafted by the Texas Rangers. He spent 2 seasons playing in the Rangers organization before beginning his front office career. So Michael's going to talk for a while, and then we're going to take questions, and then we have a special award that we're going to present to Michael. So I'll turn it over to Michael Hill.
That when I agreed to speak, I really didn't think the starting pitcher market would be as tough as it has been thus far. So I'm probably going to move around because the last few days have been exhausting, and if I sit, I might fall asleep. So, but it's great. It's great to be here with you guys, and I want to welcome you guys to Miami, beautiful South Florida. It's truly an exciting time to be a part of the Miami Marlins. And for me, it's my 14th season with the Marlins, my 22nd overall in professional baseball. And you guys have a lot of great events scheduled. And after I speak later on, you're going to have a panel with our manager from 2003. He still works with us, special assistant Jack McKeon. You're going to have Mr. Marlin, Jeff Conine, and you're going to have Juan Pierre. Probably my most favorite player that I've ever been associated with. So that'll be a real treat for you guys when I'm finished. So I'll try not to bore you guys, and I know you guys are truly fans of our unbelievable game. So I'll open it up to questions after I talk a little bit about myself. I figured I had some pretty interesting stories about the 2003 and what we went through to win this rather large ring that I really can't wear. I can't wear except for speeches and meetings because it's too big, really. And I've ripped up so many pairs of pants trying to stick my hand in my pocket with this thing. But for events like this, it's truly amazing. And on a side note, I wasn't in Cooperstown for the most recent induction, but I was there like 2 weeks before with my 12-year-old son playing in a tournament there. And they have a ring display of all the championship rings. And this thing is twice the size of any other ring in Cooperstown. So I take pride, and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears as the 3 guys that you'll talk to a little later will tell you. So I'll talk a little bit about that as I get going. But my 22nd year in professional baseball, I've truly been blessed. I'm born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, baseball city, grew up with the Big Red Machine. So I'm pretty fortunate that Tony Perez works on our staff, Hall of Famer. Andre Dawson, Hall of Famer, on our staff. So I'm pretty blessed with the people that I work with. But just growing up in Cincinnati, it's a sports town, and baseball has always been a part of who I am and who I wanted to be. Growing up, I played 3 sports through high school. I considered myself to be a decent athlete, and I got an opportunity to go to Harvard. I played 4 years of football and baseball at Harvard, and was fortunate enough to get drafted from Harvard. And like everyone who gets drafted, my ultimate goal was to play 20 years and retire Hall of Famer. But baseball is a game of adjustments, as we all know. And a few too many hits in football. I was kind of beat up coming out of 4 years of college football. So I had a few injuries and really had an opportunity to get into professional baseball, which was my ultimate dream. Just was coming a few years early. And I met Chuck Lamar when he was still working with the Atlanta Braves, and I was still a player. And this was spring training in 1995. Little did I know that he would be named the first GM of the Tampa Bay Rays at the time, and he'd be trying to put his staff together. And he was hired in July. I was sitting on a DL at the time, and he had gotten my resume from the National Association of Minor League Baseball as they were trying to build their minor league system with his new franchise. So he called me, asked me if I had interest in starting a career in the front office. And I was still playing at the time, and I don't think it took me 2 seconds to tell me where do I need to go. And so I packed up, and that was the end of my professional baseball playing career. But I sort of knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a part of this game and you know, make impactful decisions and grow the game for the next generation, for my boys and my boys' boys, because it is such a tremendous game. So my first job I came down, I left, I was on the disabled list with the Cincinnati Reds, and I just said I had enough, gonna pack it up, jumped in my car, drove to St. Pete, Florida, and I interviewed. He offered me the job, and I was the assistant in scouting and development, which basically means I did everything for everybody. But it was an invaluable experience for me. I think what was equally valuable was just the expansion experience. We huddled up for probably about 9 months in preparation, and Paul Parker's in the room with the Rockies, and that draft. You know, I've worked with 3 expansion teams, which is interesting. I never realized that until now. But going through the expansion process and breaking down every. Sorry. I'll at least put it on mute because it's not going to stop buzzing. But just going through the expansion process probably sped up my curve, my learning curve, more so than anything I've ever done in the game, because our process in preparing for the expansion draft back in 1997 was we broke down all 28 clubs from top to bottom, and we spent a year and a half evaluating them. And part of my job was gathering those scouting reports and disseminating them to our group. So I became familiar with all 28 clubs over the course of that preparation. And you know, I have a whole box from that expansion draft. So if there's ever more expansion, I may be the most prepared person in America for that one, because it's all a philosophy of how you want to draft it. And we went a certain way, and you look at all the expansion drafts, they go, you know, their clubs go different ways. But I look, and I remember the names of players that were available that we didn't take. And I go, oh my God, we let this guy go, we let this guy go. And, you know, the long and short, my 2-second summary of what I would do is I would take every available prospect on a list at that time. And there were a ton of them that were at Double-A, that were unprotected, because the clubs were protected and they had the ability to protect their top 15. And so most, historically, the expansion teams, they go for the 16th guy. And that was the way we went. We wanted to go for the 16th guy. We wanted to identify the 16th guy with every club and build a team around those players. But when you think about our game and you think about, you know, the amount of talent in our game, the 16th guy is probably an extra guy. And that's what a lot of those guys were. Some of them turned out to be better than that. But where you get your most impactful players, they were still prospects. And any expansion team's going to have growing pains, and most of them do. And philosophically, you get the most talent, the best talent you can, and you just grow with them, and you have a better chance. That's one thing that, going through that box in retrospect, that I would do differently if it happened again. But that experience in itself was unbelievable, to go through an expansion draft and put a team together. I was literally on ground floor with Tampa. I was the 5th person hired there, albeit in an entry-level position, but it was still exposure to so much. And I think that really sped up my learning curve, just with my ability to evaluate, my ability, to know the other organizations, your competitors, their strengths, where they had surplus, where they had holes. So that was really an unbelievable time for me. And once I finished going through all of that, I was fortunate enough to go to Colorado as the director of player development. And I feel proud about my time there, Paul, just because I was a part of every single one of those players that were a part of the World Series run that they had in 2007 when they went to the World Series. I was fortunate enough to be a part of the draft with Matt Holliday and Garrett Atkins and Aaron Cook and the core of that 2007 Rockies team. But the real reason why I have this ring, at least what I tell everybody, is that the Marlins push to the 2003 World Series happened when they hired me. I like to tell myself that. But 2002, fall of 2002, I started instructional league with the Rockies, and then immediately came to the Marlins as assistant GM in 2002. And it was a very interesting time for the Marlins, and eerily, very similar to what I'm going through right now with the Marlins. We had a very, very young roster, but it was an experienced roster. The 2003 roster was filled with players with 3 and 4 years of Major League service. Derek Lee, Luis Castillo, Alex Gonzalez, Mike Lowe, Juan Pierre. All of those guys were right in that sweet spot of talent. They were still in their prime. They were all 26, 27 years old, but they had the benefit of 3, 4, 5 years of experience in the major leagues. So they've had those rookie growing pains. They've had, advanced scouts and scouts putting in reports to get them out. They've made adjustments to that, and now you've started to see what type of big leaguers they were going to be. They were right on the cusp of being ready to win. And when I got to Miami, then Florida Marlins, we had the first meeting and we talked about just a semblance of talent that was there. And the biggest thing that the team lacked, and it's something that every GM faces, is trying to put a team together that fits who you are. Sometimes your talent dictates who you have to be. Sometimes you can acquire the talent to be who you want to be, to create an identity for the team that you want to build. And the Marlins at the time played in Pro Player Stadium, played in the heat, humidity. It was a humongous ballpark. And they had a team at the time that wasn't really conducive to being successful as pro players. It was a lot of strikeouts. It was built on power. And it's like, that's not really a team that can be successful for that ballpark. So we immediately looked to try to change the look of the team. And fortunately, I was coming from a place, and they had a player that sort of fit with what the Rockies were trying to do and what the Marlins were trying to do. And it really centered around Juan Pierre, and he'll be here a little bit later. But Juan Pierre, as you guys know, is about 5'10", blazing speed, tremendous short game, really puts pressure on the defense through his ledge. And the Marlins at the time had Preston Wilson, who was a huge power guy, could play center field, but wasn't exactly the leadoff type guy to create an identity for the Marlins. So I sort of left knowing that Juan Pierre might be available. And then I came to Florida knowing that Preston Wilson would probably be a great fit for the Colorado Rockies. So one of the first things that we did as an organization when I got to Florida was try to trade for Juan Pierre. And we tried to create an identity for the then Florida Marlins where you had 2 speed guys at the top of the lineup with Juan Pierre and Luis Castillo. And at the same time, we were trying to upgrade the catching for the team. And Pudge Rodriguez was available. So we knew we had a chance to sign Pudge at the time. And I felt like we had a chance to trade for JP, who just walked into the room. What's up, Pete? We were able to work out the deal, and I really think it changed the face of the then Florida Marlins when we were able to trade for Juan Pierre, because it put that speed at the top of our lineup and really started to give us an identity of who we wanted to be. There were power arms already in the line, and the pitching staff with a young Josh Beckett, a young Brad Penny, a young Carl Pavano. All of those guys were like mid-90s fastball, pure power, and that type of ability normally bodes well in postseason. So we were always excited about where our pitching staff was. So you start the season of 03 and you start to see what your team will look like. And at the time, Jeff Torborg was the manager, and the team is coming together not that great. And so you talk internally about what this team needs. And I compare 03 to a lot of what we're going through right now. And what Don Mattingly is bringing to the current Marlins team is what another one of your next panelists brought for that 2003 team. And when we went to get Jack McKeon, the thought was we needed the right leader for this tremendous group of talent that we put together. We didn't feel like the voice was connecting with the players, and so we set out to change the voice. And May 11th, 2003, actually it started May 9th when we called up Dontrell, which was a Thursday against the Rockies. And it started that evening, Saturday night game, and we decided it was time to make the change. So we had to let go of the manager after a Saturday night game, get to Jack, get Jack hired, get Jack on a plane, all for a Sunday 1 o'clock game, which we did. And I think the rest speaks for itself. He was the voice, obviously, that we needed to get these guys believing in who they could be and really let their talent take over. And Dontrell was a part of that, and the energy that he brought with our pitching staff, and then JP leading, setting the tone as the leadoff man for that team, and it started a roll. And we had the best record in baseball that particular year, May 23rd on. The Marlins had the best record in baseball, and we were rolling, and we were having fun. And I'm trying to mix in all of the next group's panelists in this little speech, just so you guys can have a little background for when you talk to them. But we were playing well, leading, as the season went on. We were right in the thick of the wild card race at the time. The Braves were running away with the division, but that really, we knew we could play with the Braves. But we needed to make sure that we could get to the playoffs, and left field had been a challenge for us in getting production from left field. And we had a 19-year-old Venezuelan shortstop that we converted to third base, named Miguel Cabrera, who was batting for, he was going to have a triple crown in the Southern League. He was leading the league in everything. And we're like, we're looking at acquisitions about this time, and we're like, we should probably give the kid a chance. And so we asked him if he could play the outfield, and he said, sure. And so we put him in the outfield at Double-A, and we gave him 2 whole days. 2. If it was up to Jack, we wouldn't have given him any. But we gave him 2 whole days to learn left field, and then we brought him to the big leagues, and he hit a walk-off grand slam in his first at-bat. So, I guess Jack was right. We should have brought him right away. But, that piece worked for us, and we continued to roll, and we got through the deadline. We made an early trade out of Urbina, who really stabilized the bullpen. which we needed at the time. And we were playing good baseball. And I can remember the day, and it's weird how some stuff is just like, blazes on your mind. But we're sitting in the box watching our game, and we're playing the Montreal Expos, and it is it's August 30th, and playoff rosters are frozen August 31st, and so if you acquire anybody after August 31st, you're just out of luck. They can't help you in the playoffs. And it's August 30th, we're playing the Montreal Expos, and we're watching as Mike Lowell takes a high fastball up and in on his hand, and drops the bat and screaming in pain, and we're like, oh my God. All of that work, everything we put in up to that point, Mike Lowell, who's having an all-star year at the time, gets his hand broken. But we had a list of all of the outfielders that we were looking to acquire at the deadline, and you keep a running. At the time, I do it now with my iPad. Back then, and I still carry it, I had a big portfolio. It had all 30 teams in it with rosters, money, all the particulars about every team, just so you had information. If you're talking to other clubs, you had the information readily available to you. And as soon as he broke his hand, we had the outfielder list out. And we're like, okay, who can we get? Who can we get? And so dial up Baltimore about Jeff Conine. And they're playing in Seattle, so their game hadn't started yet. And so we just start pushing to try to get Jeff Conine. And at the time, they knew what the timing was. And so they went for our number one and our number two pitching prospect in our system. That's who they asked for. And because Jeff wasn't a pending free agent, he still had control. So they were trying to extract as much value as possible. So we're going back and forth, and we're going back and forth. This is after the game. And Jack comes upstairs, and I know he'd probably tell a story. We're arguing about including our top two pitching prospects. We all expect to be in this game a long time, and you try not to mortgage the future as best you can for a deal. But we were right there. We were ready to make it to the playoffs, and we're arguing about this second pitcher. And Jack walks up from the dugout, and he is listening for a little bit, and he had a few choice words for us. But long and short of it, and we still use this to get today, he's like, do you want to win? What are we here to do? Do we want to win? We're like, yeah, we want to win. He's like, put it in play. We put him in, and this was like 11th hour of the trade. You had to have the trade done by midnight, and it's like 11:50 something, and we're still arguing over these players. And we ultimately put in the players, and we get Jeff Conine. And obviously, Mr. Marlin is a big part of our whole story in 03. But we go on and we continue our run, and end up with these puppies here on my hand. But we were talking about it yesterday when I saw Jack at the ballpark. A lot of fond memories from that run. And as you fast forward and you think about where the Marlins are right now, we're in a similar spot, but with a different makeup of team. I think from a position player standpoint, you look at our current team and our lineup, I will put up against anyone. We have arguably the most talented lineup in baseball. When you look at us top to bottom, and we're getting D. Gordon back today, so that'll be a nice spark to our lineup. I think we have the right person in the dugout now, and I talked about Don Mattingly and what he meant to this team. He brought credibility, he brought stability as much as anything, and he brought a sense of calm. And whenever I talk about him, I talk about just the quiet confidence that he exudes. Never rattled, I mean, the world could be shattering behind you and you wouldn't know it if you looked at him. And for a young team, I think that's extremely important because historically we've had a lot of change, if I can put it mildly, over the years. And so our players, you know, never get too comfortable because they fear our history. But in bringing Mattingly in, he brought a really sense of stability, of credibility, and he really allowed these guys just to relax and focus on doing what they do best, and that's playing baseball and winning games. And we sit here today, and we need a pitcher. We need another pitcher, and that's why, and they know we need a pitcher, and that's why my phone keeps ringing, because the price is really high right now. But we're gonna get it done, and I told Jack, I told Jeffrey, that's our goal, is to get a match in one of these, so I can be balanced. But it's fun times, and you guys, for whomever will still be around to see the game on Friday, you'll see an exciting team, a team that pitches, that plays tremendous defense, that can win games different ways. D brings an element that we've missed over the last 80 games with his speed and you know, similar to what JP did for us back in '03, D does for us now, and sets the table for the others to stand. And I think you guys will really enjoy what you see, and we're looking forward to an exciting 61 games left. And figure we're 9 over right now. Probably need to be 9 more over and get to that 90-win threshold, and get back to where we want to be, and that's the playoffs, and bring another championship to South Florida. So I could tell a bunch of stories, but I know you guys probably have some questions for me. I probably need to answer some of these text messages too. So,
So the first question is, Michael, can you speak about what Major League Baseball and its teams can do to increase the number of African Americans, Latinos, and women in the MLB front offices and in the manager's role?
That's a great question. Who asked that? What's your name? Mike. Oh, Mike. I can remember that. That's a great question, and I think it's an initiative that's on the forefront of everybody's mind. It's obviously close to my heart, and you know, I think a lot of it is, it might be a little late because my seed started when I was a kid, and I think that's part of it, where we need to try to impact our young people and really get them loving our game again. I think that's part of it, where we don't have enough young people of color, Latino, women playing our game, love our game. We've lost some traction, I would say, with the other sports that I think, you know, is impacting us. But I think that's ultimately where it starts, and then the initiatives to try to build that are in place. I know that's on the forefront of the new Commissioner Manfred, to try to grow it. But and it's just my opinion, the best way is how you guys were all made baseball fans and how I was made a baseball fan. I've been watching baseball since I can remember, with my grandpa, with my dad. It's a part of who I am, you know, and that passion for the game is what keeps me close to the game, and it's why I wanted to stay in the game when I quit playing. And you know, that I think that's the long-term solution to grow it.
Can you speak about the process of signing Stanton to the 13-year deal?
Ooh, sure. I don't think we have enough time. But I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of how I handed out the largest contract in professional sports history. He better hit a lot of home runs. No, but really it was trying to change the narrative here in Miami. That was really what we wanted to do. Because I personally was tired of our best talent going elsewhere, and we were sort of at the crossroads with Big G, because he was a second-time eligible in arbitration. He was a 4+, and you couldn't let him get to be a 5+ without being signed, because if you let him get to a 5+, they can smell free agency, and you're pretty much done at that point. You'll have to overpay even more if you can overpay more than $325 million. But you'd have to overpay more if you went unsigned with him as a 4+. So I credit him and his agent, because no deal happens if they don't want to be a part of what you're doing. So he obviously wanted to be a part of what we were doing, and then you go to work. And it's a very interesting contract because of its length, but we figured we had one of the most prolific power hitters in the game, who was 25 years old, and the 13 years, we figured that we would get all of his prime years, and with his athletic ability, at some point, if he couldn't chase him down in right field, you could move him in to the infield and still have a productive player. So that's the Cliff Notes of it. Obviously, when it's a negotiation and a contract like that, it's a lot of back and forth, and it took a lot of time. But bottom line is, you had a player who wanted to stay, and then an ownership. I mean, I wasn't writing the check, so it was our owner who had to sign off on it, and he did. And I'm glad that he's with us, and hopefully you guys will get to see him hit many more home runs.
Jeff, were there any other questions back there? Okay, so...
one more.
Is there any possibility of reviewing the rules around sliding into second base and sliding into home plate? Is the effect of injury being assessed, and what are the players thinking about those types of rules? Because until 2 years ago, those kinds of decisions at second base and home plate were considered part of the game.
No, that's a good question and a good point. And we're intimate with the catcher portion of it, because it was our player who blew up Buster Posey at home plate, and it's interesting because we always talk about that particular play and how it started the snowball of it, and a lot of people, except people in the game, talk about how Buster Posey was in poor position and out of position, and he essentially got himself hurt with how he was set up, but that's neither here nor there. He got hurt, and the game lost a tremendous star for a number of months, and I think that was the start of it. That as an industry, you want to keep your stars on the field and keep them healthy, and I think it started that movement with the home plate. And I mean, the collision at home plate is non-existent now. And it continued with the serious injury in the playoffs with Tejada. I think it's a movement to keep the guys on the field, and it changes our game, obviously. And Jack McKeon's been a part of our game almost 70 years. I mean, when he was playing, the guys with bones sticking out and everything else. But the game has just changed so much with the money involved, and it's a huge movement to keep the best talent healthy and keep them on the field. So has it changed the game itself? It has. You don't see any collisions at home plate, and you don't see anything at second base. You know, but I think it's something that our players, you know, for each of those, we had long meetings with our players. You know, we had to change how we block the plate up and down our minor league system and how they take throws from the outfield, from the infield. I mean, it took a lot of work to get our players adjusted to it, but you had to, because that was the change. And similarly with the play at second base, and that one isn't finished because you still see, you know, second baseman or shortstops leaking off the bag and little neighborhood play. With replay, you can get a couple safe calls now because guys aren't truly fully adjusted to it. But it's been an adjustment, but it's part of it. You know, as historians of the game, you guys have seen a lot of changes over the years, and these are ones that I guess we will just have to live with until they tell us something different. Yes, sir. No, definitely. And they're trying to speed it up. They're trying to speed it up, obviously, because there's some plays that, you know, we see it and it's like, okay, you got it wrong. We all know we got it wrong. Why are we waiting 3 minutes for them to admit that he got it wrong? And so there is a movement to you know, the technology is supposed to help the game and speed it up. So I think that's what the goal is to try to do that. And you'll see now that they're trying. Obviously, it's tough, and some plays are tougher when you don't have the right view or the right angle. And you know, you just hope it doesn't take too long. Yes, sir.
This question assumes that you have an analytics department.
Yes.
How much were they involved in the negotiations and structure of this?
Our analytics voice has a seat at the table, but there's no one voice that has, you know, overriding, you know, power. I'm sort of old school that way. I want to use everything, but I don't want to rely on any one thing. The analytics to who he is, I mean, his power, you can't even put on a chart, truthfully. But it's more of as he ages, you know, what makes sense in terms of dollars, where the market's going, you know, things of that nature, where our analytics played a bigger part of it. But it was a part of it, and the bottom line is it all came back to this was something that we felt like we should do, and we did it. Second part? Okay.
The contract, as I understand it, the way it's structured, there are a couple of, there's an opt-out at some point.
You guys have that info?
Well, please correct me. And the other thing is, I think there's a little
Is there
more,
media in here?
there's a little more weight at the end of it than at the beginning.
Maybe. Yes, sir.
Talking about the standard contract, you made a reasonable case that it might still be contributing to that contract.
Yes.
And I accept that. But what I want to know is, without getting into any specific cases, there are a lot of long-term free agent contracts, particularly for pitchers. The best year was several years ago, where I have to wonder, this is what I'm going to ask you, if the organization actually is being honest enough to say to themselves, we're signing this guy 5 years, 3 years, 10 years. We know he's not going to be valuable for that long, but we think he'll be an asset for 2 or 3 years, and let's face it, this is just what we have to do to get him as an asset for 2 or 3 years. Does anybody ever actually face the facts that way? Do you think?
If they're being honest with themselves, they have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think that's fair. That's very fair. And, you know, it's part of it. I mean, you couldn't commit a 13-year contract without thinking and analyzing what the back end of that contract will look like. He might have an out, I'm not sure, but in the case he does not exercise that out and he's still with you, you have to think when you sign that deal that he's there for 13 years and how you fit this player with your plan as you move forward. I hope I'm here in 13 years to fully see how it plays out. But yeah, anyone who's signing these deals, you think about it and it's in yes.
Getting back to instant replay that you did, the physics of a fellow sliding in the set, and then when he slides in, is it logical to think it can keep his foot on the bag through the whole play? Because I know that's how sometimes now it's being called out when his foot has come up. Is it actually logical, or is the physics of the mechanics of the body, will that leg always come up when you slide it and it's back? So now we're doing a replay and we're getting outs now, and in fact we never used to get outs because the body is built in such a way to keep the foot on the back. I just wonder if that's a technical thought about that.
No, I think you have to. I think you combine replay and the fact that the cameras catch everything. We've changed all of our middle infielders how they apply tags. It used to be a quick up down, and now you see everybody rides the tags in its entirety through. And then we feel like we have the best replay technician in the game, and he'll slow it down frame by frame. And if there is a single frame that shows that this base runner disengaged from the bag, hold the tag there, and replay will call them out. And you've seen it.
The physics of the whole action, you think is logical. I mean, I know that's what we're doing. Now let's look at the baseline point of view.
Yeah.
You can't keep it physically. You can't keep it put on the bag. You think it's logical. That's how we play our team. I guess that's where I'm
Yeah.
looking at it.
I think that's just part of you know, the advancement of technology. It's something that the physics are what they are, and the slides, you know, if you're going feet first, you're saying it exactly correct. But I think from a baseball standpoint, you make the adjustment, and it's part of, you know, the advancement in technology that we adjust. So now that up-down quick tag is now one that you ride out because there's some players who can stay, and as their foot comes up, their hand grabs the bag, so they're still technically on the bag. But we teach to keep the tag on for those players who aren't able to do that, disengage, and then we're on it quickly to hopefully get them called out. Yes.
Let's take one more question.
Yes, I'm from Seattle, I'm here to see this real bit. I already addressed the question, I think, what's the strategy doing this year for going on, and what each year? We've had a fantastic year, of course.
Yes, you guys may see 3,000 on Friday. There's a good chance that you see 3,000. The psychology behind playing him is, unfortunately, fortunately, we have one of the most talented outfields in baseball with Christian Yelich and Ozuna and Stanton. The unfortunate part of it is they've never played a full season without some type of injury. So when we signed Ichiro, it made sense to have him because, you know, arguably the greatest Japanese player of all time, to have him as your fourth outfielder is a bonus. And that's how Donnie's used him. When he's felt like Ozuna or Yelich or Stanton need a day, then Ichiro starts. He's gotten to play a lot this year because, you know, Stanton had an oblique and was out for a couple weeks. Yelich's back flared up for a little bit. You know, so there's been plenty of opportunity. As we all know, over the course of 162 games, it's very difficult to keep everybody healthy and on the field. So we've gotten regular work for Ichiro, and we're all pretty excited to see him eclipse 3,000.
Rob?
Briefly, what the discussions would have been very long, the organization not like we had history with one of what is that authorized and ensure that was a factor for both.
Yeah, in bringing Barry Bonds aboard, we were just trying to assemble the best staff possible. Our owner had a relationship with Barry just over the years. Mr. Barry had a relationship with him over the years. And when you talk to him just away from the game, and obviously he was one of the greatest hitters of all time, but he just sees the game through a different lens. It's like, I look and I see one thing, and he's already 3 pitches ahead and thinking about the 4th pitch that he's going to throw. Sort of a next level type of breakdown of pitching and approach. And we felt like we had a very good hitting coach in Frank McKeon, very good grinder, overachiever as a player, and we just wanted to marry Frankie's approach with someone who may not be the in the dirt, you know, flipping the cage kind of guy, but that mental part of the game that is so difficult to be successful. And the two of them together, Frankie and Barry, have been unbelievable because he does have the ability. I mean, the reason why he was a great hitter is just how he set pitchers up, and you can when you talk to him, you can hear how he thinks about, you know, how he positions himself and how he may pass on one pitch to set himself up for another pitch. And it's sort of that type of approach that we wanted to share with our hitters, which ties into the whole part of where our hitters were in their career. You know, all of our guys have been in the big leagues, 2, 3, 4, in Stan's case, 5 years. So they're ready to take that next step and become elite players. And so we felt like his voice would allow them to take that step. You're welcome.
In addition to Michael being our featured speaker, he's also the recipient of one of our most prestigious awards, the Roland Heeman Award. And most of you know Roland well. Unfortunately, Roland was not able to attend today, but he did send something that he asked me to read. And he said, "I regret that I cannot be in attendance today to present the award bearing my name to Michael Hill, President of Baseball Operations for the Miami Marlins. I am honored that this award is being presented to Michael, who has achieved a great deal during his baseball career. He has spent the 22 years after his minor league playing days to work his way through the baseball ranks to his current position as one of only 2 African Americans in the role of President of Baseball Operations for a major league team. I am proud that this award is being presented to Michael, and I wish him continuing success for many years to come. Roland Heeman, Special Assistant to the President and CEO of the Diamondbacks, and as you know, Roland was a longtime GM and a devoted SABR member. And I'll just read here, in recognition for contributions to the community of professional baseball scouts, the Scouts Committee of the Society for American Baseball Research presents Michael Hill, 2016 recipient of the Roland Heeman Award. Just an honor for me to receive an award in his name. So thank you guys. Thank you for having me this morning, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your time. And